Hello CraftDee Family, and welcome to another tutorial by She's So Crafty. For today's DIY project, we'll be creating 4 neutral Valentine themed DIY projects. Now these pieces all feature a kind of modern, minimal farmhouse type of style, but they're really easy to make. Now these are perfect projects, especially if you're new to crafting, and they all can be made with Dollar Tree and other low-cost items. Now for your convenience, I provided the complete list of supplies and tools I used to make these projects in the description box below. Now I'm so excited to share this tutorial with you, but before we start, I wanted to say hey, and welcome back to my amazing subscribers and visitors to my channel. Now if you are a new visitor to my channel today, and you love to create fun DIY projects on a budget, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button and also click that little bell so you will be the first to know when a new DIY tutorial is ready to share with you. So now, let's just jump right into the projects. Now the first project is a wood heart with beaded trim and a little greenery. Now for this project we'll need one of these wood hearts from the Dollar Tree, some jute twine from the Dollar Tree, some of this Farmhouse striped ribbon, and I got this from the Dollar Tree, a bundle of Boxwood greenery that was 97 cents from Walmart, some of these carved hearts from the Dollar Tree, and we'll need some wood beads, and I picked these up at Amazon. So the first thing we're going to do is to lay out our protecting supplies, and we are going to be staining our heart, and you could stain it with Jacobian Minwax stain or some diluted acrylic paint. Now in order to stain the piece, I'm just going to apply one nice coat of that stain on the front of my heart and also on the sides of the heart. And once it's all covered, you want to sit it to the side to dry. So now we're going to grab our beads and our jute twine, and we're going to make our accessory. So I'm just going to grab one of those little carved hearts out of the package and take out some of those beads. So I'm going to cut a really long piece of that jute twine to start working with, and I like to put a little dab of hot glue on the very end just to keep it nice and together so I can start stringing my beads on. Now when I start stringing these beads on, I'm going to start out with adding 16 beads to my string. Now once you have your beads on there, you want to leave 2 or 3 inches on the edges, and you want to cut that string down. So then go ahead and separate them into 2 even sides, and you want to mark the center with a marker. Now take an additional small piece of that jute string, and you want to tie a knot around the center mark that you just made. Then cut off the tail, and then you want to add a little bit of security by adding a dab of hot glue right on that knot. So for one bead, you want to take the opening and you want to open it up a little wider, so when you slide it on your string, that knot will be nestled right inside of it and you can't see it when you bead on the remainder of your beads. So you just want to pull the knot right inside there, and then when it's in there, go ahead and secure it in place with hot glue. And then I'm just going to add on another 4 beads for a total of 5 beads on this piece. So now I'm going to add my little carved heart on the side, and I'm just going to run that piece of jute twine through that top hole of that heart, and I'm going to attach it in a double knot close to that string of 5 beads. And then once everything looks good, go ahead and snip off the tail of that string and add a little hot glue for a little added security. So now that that's ready, we can go ahead and grab our stained heart now that it's dry. And I'm just going to kind of situate it on the front however I would like it to look. And I ended up adding, or actually taking away one of the beads on the top. So I actually am going to be using 14 beads. Now once it looks pretty good, I'm just going to put one little dab of hot glue around the back, securing the stringed beads right on the back, making any adjustments as I go. Now with that little dot, if everything looks good with that, you can just flip it back over, and I'm just going to add a long string of hot glue on there and secure the remainder of that string. And then trim down those strings if needed. Now as an accent, I'm going to add some pieces of this boxwood, so I'm going to snip off 2 branches of the boxwood. And I'm going to trim them down to fit the front. So I'm just going to bend them to where they kind of curve along the bottom, and I'm going to place them right at the bottom where the tails just cross. And then to apply them, I'm just going to add a strip of hot glue, and I'm going to press one of those branches on each side of that carved heart. Now, after looking at this, I really rather have my heart a little higher, but I like the way it sits here, so that's okay. So now I would use probably 3 beads instead of 5. So as a final touch, I'm taking some of that Farmhouse striped ribbon, and I'm just going to tie it into a little bow, and I'm going to put it right at the bottom, covering up those stems of that boxwood. And then I'm going to trim that ribbon down to fit. Now, if some of those branches stick out, you can just snip those off. And there you have it. So of course, I'm going to finish the back of my piece. So I'm going to take a piece of this craft paper, and I'm going to start to apply glue around the top half of my heart, and I'm going to press it right on top. And then I want to flip it over and add remaining glue along the bottom of the heart. So once it's fully adhered, I'm just going to break out my cutting mat and my X-Acto knife, and I'm going to carefully trim around that heart, making the ends nice and even. And now you can see that the back is nicely covered. Now to hang my piece, I'm just going to take some of this jute twine with knotted ends, and I'm going to apply a dab of hot glue on the back and press those knotted ends into place. Now to cover up those raw ends, I'm going to take a scrap piece of that craft paper. I'm going to add a bead of glue right over the ends of that string and cover it up. And I just think this looks so nice and neat. And here is your piece on display. Oh my goodness, I think it's so adorable. Now I think the contrast between the stained wood and the natural wood really looks great, and it really fits into that natural theme. And then when you add the boxwood and it all ties everything together, it really looks so nice. You have to let me know what you think of this project. Now the next project will be decorative jars with wood heart accents. Now for this project, we'll need 2 mason jars. We'll need 2 of some solid carved hearts, and we'll need some of wildflowers of your choice and some of that Farmhouse ribbon. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the lids of our mason jars, and we are going to be painting these. So I'm going to be using some of my chalk paint, and I'm going to be adding this with a paintbrush. So all you want to do is you want to add your chalk paint to this. You want to make sure you get into all the nooks and crannies first, and then you want to go in one solid stroke from the top to the bottom to eliminate any streaks in your jars. And then you want to repeat this for your other jar. So now that both jars are covered, you want them to completely dry. Now once they are dry, we want to protect that finish, so I'm going to use some of this matte Mod Podge that I picked up from the Dollar Tree. And you're going to apply this the same way. You just want to go in straight up and down strokes to make sure it's a nice even coat around both of the jars, and then you want to make sure you sit them both to the side to dry. So while those are drying, we are going to be staining the solid hearts from our set. So I'm going to be using that same Jacobian stain by Minwax, and I'm going to stain the front and the back of the solid hearts. Now once those are dry, we can start to make our heart picks. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to wrap the solid hearts with some jute twine. So I'm just going to hot glue it into place. And then you just randomly wrap that jute twine all around the heart in any random pattern until you're happy with it, and then snip it off and hot glue it into place. Now once both hearts are covered, this is what they'll look like. So now to add the height to my hearts, I'm just going to be using some of these 10-inch dowels that I got from the Dollar Tree. And to attach them, I'm going to attach them to the solid hearts first. And I'm just going to nestle that dowel right in between those strings, and then apply hot glue along the back side to secure them into place. And here's what they'll look like on the dowels. Now for the carved hearts, I'm just going to add a dot of hot glue at the very bottom. I'm going to make sure that that is nice and secure first. And then what I'm going to do is go back and add some hot glue right over the top of that dowel onto the heart. And this kind of adds a little brace so it stays nice and secure to the rod. So now our jars are completely dry and we can start to decorate. So I'm going to go ahead and grab those wildflowers I have and some of that farmhouse ribbon. So I'm going to measure out a piece where I can tie a bow around the threads of my jar. And then I'm just going to tie it really nice and tight into a really pretty bow. So once both bows are tied, go ahead and grab some of those wildflowers, and I'm just going to fold up that bottom stem so it fits in the jars. You can certainly cut it off, but I like to fold it up just in case I want to repurpose these into another project. So once those are in the jar, I'm going to take our hearts on a stem and I'm just going to cut them to size. And I'm going to cut the ones with the wrapped twine a little shorter than the ones with the carved hearts because I wanted varying heights for texture and appeal when I add them to the jars. So then I'm just going to nestle those into those wildflowers and make sure that they are showing from the front. Now once both jars are added, I wanted to add another accent to the jars. It just seemed a little plain to me. So I took some of the dark wood grain contact paper from the Dollar Tree and I cut some 1.5 strips from it. So what I'm going to end up doing is I want to wrap that strip around the center of each jar. So you just want to carefully measure to the center and make sure it is applied nice and smooth. Just trim off any excess edge, put that ribbon back down there, and there you go. Now I did want my greenery to be a little fuller, so I did add an additional boxwood along with the wildflowers, and I think this added that last final perfect touch where my bundle is nice and full. And here are both bundles complete. Oh my goodness, you guys. Okay, I really love how these turned out. Now I love the textured hearts on these. It really does give it a nice look and appeal. And the little strip just give it that touch of modern that we're going for. Now you can choose to use greenery, you could use flowers, you can even change up the ribbon. You could just make it your own. I just think that these are so adorable and they'll fit into your decor year round. Now the next project are two-tone love sign wood stand. So we're going to start off with this wood love sign from the Dollar Tree. We're also going to use some of this contact paper from the Dollar Tree. And we're also going to use these tumbling blocks this time and more of those wood beads. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take that love sign and we're going to go ahead and remove the retail tags from it, and we're going to leave that string on for now. So I'm going to cover the entire sign with this white chalk paint, and I like to start on the outside edge first. It just seems so much easier to get into all those cracks and crevices first. Now once all the insides and outsides are done, I'm going to cover the entire front with white chalk paint. And then you want to let it completely dry. So once it is dry, we're going to grab that contact paper, and what I'm going to do is cut a piece that would at least cover half the sign long ways. So I'm just going to lay it right on top and then cut a piece out of that contact paper. So then I'm going to take that contact paper. I do want to make sure it has a perfect straight edge. So I'm just going to lay it down with my metal ruler and my X-Acto knife and cut a nice straight edge. And once it looks good, go ahead and peel the backing off, and you want to apply it right along the center of that love sign and then press it into place. Now if everything looks good, go ahead and flip it over, and then you can take your X-Acto knife and trim off all of that excess. Now once the outside edges are done, I like to flip it over to do the other side so I can get the insides of all the loops and letters, and then just hand smooth it all into place. So now we're going to work on our stand for our love sign, and I'm just going to grab my carpenter square, which is available at that Dollar Tree as well, and I'm going to separate about 21 of those blocks. Now what I want to do with the blocks is I want to glue them together in sets of 3. So now all 7 3-piece sets are done, and we're going to adhere these all together, and this will form the base of our stand. So you want to make sure you're using a straight edge when you adhere these together so you'll have a nice straight piece. So now I'm going to be using some of these craft sticks from the Dollar Tree to add a little bit of reinforcement to my seams at the bottom. So I'm just going to take 4 of those craft sticks and add them along the bottom, along the seams, and you want to make sure the sticks are touching all of the blocks. This will add a little bit of reinforcement and keep your stand nice and sturdy. And so now that our stand is all together and dry, we want to add little feet. So I'm going to take 5 of those 16mm beads that I have, and I want to apply them to the bottom of the piece. So what I want to do is I'm going to apply a generous amount of that hot glue to one of the open beaded ends and then press it into the corner of our piece. Now you want to add it to all 4 corners and 1 in the center. So now I wanted to paint my piece, so again I'm going to use some of my chalk paint and I'm going to apply 1 generous coat to the stand. I want to start at the bottom first. Make sure you cover those beads as well, and then when that's done, go ahead and flip it over and add it to the top and the sides of the stand. And here it is all dry, so we are ready to stage our stand. So I'm going to take that love sign and we're going to end up sitting this right on top. So since we're sitting it on the stand, we won't be using that string. I'm just going to go ahead and cut it off. So to accent it, I'm going to go ahead and grab the rest of that greenery. I'm just going to add 2 cuts of that greenery to the stand. Now you can add the greenery to the stand and put the love sign on top, or you can put it under, however you like. I just think that these colors all together looks so clean and fresh. And here is the little love sign on display. I think it's simply adorable. Now I love these colors together. I think the wood grain paired with the white looks so clean and modern, and it really looks great. And adding that pop of green really ties all of these pieces together, and this is definitely something you can keep out year round. Now the next project is a triple heart wall art piece. So we're going to start off with this Easter sign, or you can use any sign that you have on hand. Again, I'm going to be using some of that Boxwood greenery I got from Walmart. We'll be using some of that ribbon as well, and this 3-heart decoration piece from Dollar Tree. So I'm going to start by separating all the 3 hearts, and you could just simply do this with scissors. And then you're going to remove any hooks, loops, and retail signs. Now these hearts are plastic with little garland wrapped around it on little hooks, so I'm just going to unwind the garland from the hearts. It's really easy. And here are all the hearts without that garland on there. So for my project, I won't be leaving on the little hooks, so I'm simply going to snip these off with a pair of wire clippers. So once I snip off the little hooks, this is what it would look like. Now I also wanted to remove those braces along the side. I only want to leave the brace at the top and the bottom, so I want to carefully snip out those braces. And here is what it would look like with everything removed, and we want to repeat this for the remainder of the hearts. So here are all 3 of my hearts ready to go. So I want to paint my hearts, so I'm just going to lay out my paper and grab my chalk paint. Now you can use chalk paint or spray paint for this, and it's all up to you, but when I apply my chalk paint, I just like to dab it on to make sure I cover the entire surface. And here is what one of the hearts will look like, and just repeat these for the other 2 hearts. Now while that dries, I'm going to go ahead and take my sign, remove any embellishments on there, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to be covering this, so I'm going to go ahead and use the Easter printed side of it, and I'll keep the back side plain so it's nice and clean. So I'm taking some of that contact paper again, and I want to cut out a piece that would cover the entire front. And once you have your piece that'll fit, just peel it off and you want to apply it onto the sign. Now, what I should have done is maybe sanded down the areas where I peeled off the feet and the little ribbon, because it did leave some texture showing through the paper, but it still worked out. But just a word to the wise, you might want to sand it down before you add it on your project. So I'm just going to use my hand to smooth it out until it's nice and smooth and it's fully covered on the front. Now, once the front is fully covered, you just want to flip in the edges on the back and press those into place. And once the top and bottom are done, just go ahead and fold in those sides as well. And here is the board completely covered. Now, if you want to add some hooks to the back, you can add some picture hooks or whatever you like. Or you can add the jute twine hooks as well. Now, mine will be hanging on little hooks, so I won't be adding anything to the back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and grab my hearts now that they're dry, and I am going to place them evenly on the front of my piece. Now, to apply these, I'm going to put hot glue on the outer rings of the hearts, the most inner rings of the hearts, and the top and the bottom. I'm going to repeat this for the other heart on the other side and also the one in the center. And here they all nice and secure. So now I want to take some more of that Boxwood greenery, and this time I'm going to pick off those bundles from the stem. Now I'm going to be using 2 bundles on each one of the hearts, and I'm just going to stick them in right at the bottom. Now once they're in place the way you like them, go ahead and secure them in with hot glue, and you can trim off any stems that stick out the bottom. Now to finish these off, all we're going to do is we are going to put some of these little bows on there that I tied with some more of that farmhouse ribbon. Now I'm going to place one in the center bottom of each one of the hearts. You just want to apply a generous amount of hot glue and place one at the bottom. And here is the piece all complete. And here we have it. It is on display. I love it. I think it's too cute. Now, I really love the very minimal look of these. It's clean, it's fresh, and it looks really great. Now, I really wanted to make these projects something you can use year-round, something you can enjoy. So I really hope you guys give this a try. You have to let me know which one was your favorite today. Listen, if you love DIYs on a budget, give this video a thumbs up and share this video with your friends. Make sure that you're following She's So Crafty EE on Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest for the latest news, sneak peeks, and giveaways. Now, if you like videos like these and you don't want to miss the next one, make sure you subscribe by clicking that subscribe button below and turning on that notification bell. It's absolutely free. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.